This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon. The time being 4:45 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting of December 2nd, 2021 to order. Before we get started, if you're joining us virtually, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noise will interfere with the meeting. First up, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda, review and approve public minutes of November 18th. Everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of November 18th, 2021 as presented.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Hold it.
No.
No, all set?
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. I forgot to indicate that Selectman Scanlon is running a few minutes late and will be here momentarily. Just for the record. Let's see, first up, make a motion to accept the donation of Christmas decorations from Tractor Supply, Walmart, Home Depot, and Lowe's.
So moved. Oh, did you make the motion?
I just made a motion. Yeah,
Okay, I'll second it.
Make a motion a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Thank you very much to those companies for their generous donation to help our town look more beautiful for Christmas. We very much appreciate that. I'll make a motion that we accept, is it a donation?
Rewards.
It's a rewards?
Yeah.
Okay. Make a motion that we accept the rewards check from First National Bank of Omaha, Visa card in the amount of $1,250.
I'll second it for explanation.
Motion and the second. Explanation, please.
So Tim.
Tim, oh, hi, Tim.
So that represents the rebate we get when we use the Visa cards to purchase technology items, other items as well, but the vast majority, as you've seen in Visa over the years, is my card. And in the past, we cashed in to get a check back from Visa, and the board elected to put that into the recommended IT grant line, so that it gave me a little bit of a buffer should I run into any issues. This, if you don't use the points by a certain time, they start to expire, and it's a 3-year look back. And so these points were going to start to expire the beginning of next month. So that's why I ordered those checks, and we still have a small points balance, but that pretty much,
Wipes it out.
wipes out. Yeah,
And the grant line is,
it's in the grants and donations account, and we used a good portion of that when we were redoing the town hall for the phone system here and the cabling here.
so after we accept the donation, we need to make a motion to put it into the grants and donation line.
That would be great
Okay.
for IT. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Tim, for that explanation. Any other discussion? No. All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion passes. Do we want to make a,
Make a motion that we take the $1,250 that we just received from the FNBO Rewards Visa card and place it in the grants and donations line
Second.
for IT.
for IT?
Excuse me.
Second.
Motion a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Let's see. Make a motion to accept a donation of $200 for Christmas decorations from Kim Souls.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thank you, Kim Souls.
Thank you very much. Hearing no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Kim, for your generous donation to continue making us look beautiful for the holidays. Let's see, next, wow. Accept an anonymous donation of $100 for the New Hampshire Motor Speedway Festival of Lights for the Senior Center.
Second.
Motion in 2 seconds.
Exactly what does that mean? Is that transportation?
I think that's an admission.
That's admission ticket for a bus.
Is that one bus?
No, actually, it was a car and a bus, but it's a reimbursement for a car, actually, that we can't use it. We have to use the bus.
Okay.
So it's an extra one, so we'll be going 3 times instead of 2.
Very nice. I bet you that bus trip is full too.
Yes, it is
All right.
already.
Very nice, very nice. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes. Next up, Chief Setar, ventilators for the fire department. If you'd have a seat, please. Now, since I'm commissioner, do I need to recuse myself for this? So,
This is just an explanation.
hi, Chief, how are you today?
Chief.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight.
Had a little late night last night. Huh?
Yes.
All right, well, you're better now, so we're good.
So the reason I'm here is to request that the town of Tilton submit an application in concert with the fire district for a ventilator for one of our ambulances in an ultraviolet light for disinfectant purposes that we use in the ambulances and the engines and stuff like that. This is similar to the same request that I requested from the town of Northfield, and which they have acquiesced to. So we're doing a grant with them. So it's exactly the same grant with both towns. And currently we have these equipments listed in our budget, but if the grants are written and approved by the state, we can withdraw those funds from the budget, and that would be in the apparatus and equipment fund budget. So keep the money in there for something else.
And my understanding is when we write this grant, it would come out of our ARPA funds, correct?
It'll come out, there's an additional program separate from the ARPA funds that the board accepted. It's local equipment, and it's a $50,000 grant, which is separate from the other ARPA funds that we've already accepted.
That we had plans for.
The ARPA funds, yes.
I know, but that other category, we had the 50,000, we already had plans for it. So we'll
use the rest of it,
okay.
whatever's left, we will certainly use.
It's for COVID related equipment specifically is what the grant is for.
How
Jeannie
much
has her
does the
hand.
ventilator? How much does the ventilator cost?
The ventilator is $14,000 and the UV light is around $5,000. The reason I'm asking the municipalities to do this for us is because as the fire district is categorized as a special village district within the state, and we're not eligible to directly apply for these funds. And when I asked for guidance from the grant coordinator, they said, you ask the municipalities that you serve under to do this and see if they will.
What's the downside? There has to be a downside.
So there's
Matching funds.
There's a
or-
10% match, which the fire district will pay the 10% match. And the downside is if the grant is not granted, we're still going to buy this equipment, but it'll be through the apparatus and equipment fund budget.
Yeah.
Jeannie again.
Jeannie?
The question I had was already asked and answered, so.
Did Northfield?
Yeah, he said.
Yes.
They approved, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, that was last week.
I believe the term was acquiesced.
That's correct.
Probably the key word I missed right there. So. I'm sure that was an interesting process.
When do you need the decision by, chief?
Sooner rather than later, but the grant application window is pretty wide right now. I forget, I think it goes to June.
June 22.
Yeah. But if the sooner we do it, the sooner we'll find out from the state, and then that will give us information to how we can handle the money in our next budget, whether we have to keep it in the budget or we can withdraw it and just keep it in the apparatus and equipment fund.
We have time to talk about this a little bit later on in our meeting, then that would, right, okay.
Anyone else?
We have ventilators on our trucks right now, correct?
No,
We don't.
no.
I thought we did.
So about a year and a half ago, we got certified to do rapid sequential intubation on trauma patients. And with the COVID virus that's going around, sometimes the patients that we go to have to be intubated so we can allow them to breathe. What the ventilator does is it decreases the amount of aerosolization of the patient's exhalation into the air, protecting our providers because it's a cleaner air that they'll be working in. Even though we're wearing masks and stuff, nothing's 100%. And it also, the ventilators also provide a much more efficient breathing for the patient, ventilation for the patient than what we do manually with a bag vast valve. The ventilators that we're looking to buy also do BiPAP and CPAP, which are other procedures which we do as well.
What's the lifespan on those ventilators approximately?
About 10 years.
Wow. And how many trained personnel do we have for the canine?
For the ventilators, all our paramedics, and currently we have 6 paramedics. We can train advanced EMTs to use the ventilators as well, but that's an extra module for them, but the paramedics are already trained.
We have 6.
Yes.
If you apply now, how long does it take to get one?
Well, the ventilator salesman's knocking on my door all the time saying, you know, we got them, we have them in stock, because they are, last year they really ramped up sales and production for the great need of ventilators last year. It's not as much this year, so they have them available.
John? Oh, I was just, I thought you raised your hand. I was just your glasses. Sorry. Anyone else? No? Well,
I appreciate it, chief.
appreciate it, Chief.
Thank you for having me in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll
Let you know as soon as,
we'll discuss it later on. And
Yep.
You'll hear from Jeannie, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
thanks,
Chief.
Appreciate it.
Chief.
All right. Next, the Finance IT Director, Tim Pearson, on the budget. We could jump, we can skip around, but no, not really. Hold that. Thank you.
The budget's.
Yes.
I'm going to wallpaper a room with them.
All right.
Maybe we can do it during this session.
I'm sorry, I didn't feel comfortable making a motion until we heard your recommendation from either one.
I think it benefits, it is COVID, it should be COVID related. And
Yeah.
This is an additional money that we didn't expect because
Right.
we've got, they're our own ARPA money, so it does benefit the community.
Right. I get that. I'm 150% of it, but you folks have tightly, dealt out that ARPA
Right.
money very, very carefully
Right.
to the needs. And we didn't get a sense from you sitting here just now, could we do that or could we not do that? And I didn't feel comfortable saying,
Yeah.
what's your recommendation if it would
Oh, yeah.
the opposite?
Yeah, because it's separate.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
And we'll have
You
another
know.
30,000.
yeah, and the only concern I had was, really the match. If that was going to cause the grant any issues, but it sounds like they're going to proceed forward anyway through the apparatus fund, even if the grant can't come through. But doesn't seem like that's going to be an issue. But as long as the fire district pays that, it bodes well for the town because we don't split everything 50-50
Right.
with our counterparts. And this is a case where we would. So I think that's a good thing. Generally, we pay a higher percentage, right?
So you would need a motion to accept.
To give.
Give them the green light.
Yeah,
So I'll make a motion to
because
give,
I'll apply for it, or you will.
I'll make a motion to to allow the town of Tilton to apply for the grant for the Tilton Northfield District for the ventilator in the UV light.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Here,
Oh, John.
Go put something in the motion, provide that Northfield also does.
They already have. They did.
They're doing a separate motion. They want two, so Northfield's doing one and we're doing one.
And if Northfield backs out or
So
They get one, and then they'll put one in the budget.
I believe that
right,
the intent of the chief came here second after Northfield. We waited for what Northfield's decision was.
But for the record, Gail, could you just put that in the minutes? That would be good. So we have it.
All right. Any other discussion? None. No, did you raise your hand? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
All right.
All set?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have my report in front of you, there's some housekeeping items before we get to the budget. The first thing is regarding Bernard Waste Systems, and that's the extension of their agreement through the end of 2022. The one modification that the town had agreed to was removing the $50 cap per ton on the recycling disposal, and that's the only change that's being made to the agreement. There's a letter in your to be signed folder that if you're in agreement with that, which you'd already voted on, I believe. So if you would please just sign that if you haven't already. The trackless snow machine, so that's ready to be delivered, and I've determined that so the total cost is $156,473, and that's for the machine itself, the dump body, the ribbon blower, and the drop spreader. And we have a little bit more than $116,000 in the capital reserve fund for highway equipment. It's like $116,084. And what I would like to see done is that we take $111,084 from that fund, leaving $5,000 for an emergency until such time there's more money put into that fund. So if the director had some kind of transmission or something else go that we couldn't fit into the budget, at least he'd have some money there to tap. Not knowing what's going to happen, in town meeting in 2022, it's probably a high probability that more money will be put into that fund. You can't guarantee it. So anyway, so I'm recommending that we leave 5,000 in there and then pull the balance of it from two lines in the police budget. And if you recall, the personnel changes that we had at the beginning of the year, they were at a significantly higher level within the police department. As such, retirement budgeted for those individuals and the types of health plans budgeted for them were where the majority of our savings is coming from. And I made a recommendation to do a budget transfers out of two of the lines, $25,389 from the health insurance line and $20,000 from the retirement group 2 line, which makes up the balance of the amount required to pay for the trackless machine. I've included a suggested motion, and then I have letters in your to be signed folder instructing the trustees to remit the $111,000 if you agree with this, as well as a letter from me that allows me to make the budget transfer within the budget of the $45,389 between the departments. So the one caveat is that when we do the budget transfer, those amounts, the budgeted amounts, the legally budgeted amounts in the police budget will be reduced by $45,389 in those two lines. And then as you're looking at next year, going into town meeting, somebody's going to look and say, well, gee, how come this one went up? Well, we actually moved money out of that last year so that we could buy the snow machine and not have to raise and appropriate any money. And so, those things are explainable. At one point, I was looking at removing the entire amount from just one line, but I think that just skews it even more. So for those that would be interested in this, but in any event, that's my recommendation. And but I can change any of these amounts if you want to deplete that fund in its entirety. We can move the $5,000. It's whatever the board would like to do.
So how does that affect the police department budget? There's other purchases that we're looking to make vehicles. Maybe, how's our heating doing with the building and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. We are still going to be significantly under budget. And in fact, I've asked the chief to put together figures for radio replacements, handheld radio replacements. The radios are I forget how old they are now, almost 15 years old, I think, some of them. And they will have the budgetary money to be able to do something like that. Maybe not the entire, set of radios, certainly the handhelds. And I believe the new vehicles had radio budgeted in them. So, in any event, they're still going to be significantly under. And we're actually looking pretty good going into the end of the year. We're looking at least right now about $250,000 under budget where we were this time last year. So, versus our budget. So even with some of these expenditures, we're still going to be in good shape. And I don't want to give the impression that I think we should just go out and spend willy-nilly either. The handhelds are something that are going to have to be dealt with at some point in time. It just so happens we have such an anomaly in the budget this year that we could afford to do that, or we can afford to purchase the track list without having to raise and appropriate additional money. So it seems like it's a good time to take advantage of that. The other aspect of this that is weighing on my mind is what happens at the end of next year in terms of the tax rate, and needing as much fund balance as we can to offset the increase in the rate that we'll be anticipating, because that anomaly in the school rate isn't going to last. It'll be back next year. So we'll see a good increase in our rate again. So, which is unfortunate, because as those of you that have been on the board for any length of time know that I always preach about trying to keep the tax rate as level as possible, so that people's escrow accounts aren't whipsawed around. And because the banks or mortgage companies invariably raise more, anticipating it's going to be higher that next year by some factor. So anyway, so I'm being very conscious of looking out for how we're going to end up and what we'll have available to us at the end of next year to help soften the pain of that anticipated increase. So hopefully that answers your question, but they're going to be in fine shape.
Yeah,
The police department itself.
This is our first year with all the utilities kicking in.
Yeah. So if you were to look through the utilities, because of the timing of what we budgeted and when we actually took delivery of the building, if you will, or the occupancy of the building, some of those expenditures for utilities in some of the higher, colder months were in the front of the year, and that was also attributed and charged to the construction account. So all through the construction, and technically we still have some activities going on with Milestone, just very few, but there's a few lingering things that are being taken care of. So in any event, some of those higher utilities were paid out of that fund, and you'll see that we're underspent in a number of those areas. And we still don't have a full year experience, so it's still
Not a true year.
Not a true year, yeah. And you were in the building when there was a giant tube running through it, for the heat, and so now we're seeing actual experience with it.
Thanks, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? How much are these radios gonna?
Well, I know that Motorola's that we've purchased in the past have been roughly $1,100, $1,200 range, and then anywhere from $50 to $100 for programming for them.
We've gotten grants for them, though.
A long time ago, there was a grant for that, but to my knowledge, there isn't an existing grant that's available for radios. And we haven't utilized a radio grant since I've been here.
Did Lieutenant Gilman try? I thought he was trying to get a grant for that and it fell through.
I think it didn't qualify. Yeah, he was working with the part-time.
Right.
Yeah, no, that didn't qualify. So in any event, and as we get on to my, the back of my page here, I've got items for encumbrances, and the radios are one of them. But until we have some firm numbers, it's just on the radar. And as we get to the end of the year, we can always pull the trigger, at the end of the year, or at your next meeting, we'll probably have all the information we need to see if we would encumber that. And also this time of year, I'm also going through all the budgetary items, looking at what's fully spent but under budget, what we still have to spend, so I'm projecting out through the end of the year and to really get a firmer number for me, and then hopefully giving you a little more conservative number, so that invariably as the dust settles, there's things that come up that I wasn't aware of that come in and we've got to pay for. So So anyway, but we shall get there. But right now, this really centers around paying for the machine. The board had already approved the purchase, and
Okay, in that case, I move that in order to pay $156,473 for the trackless MT7 snow machine with dump body, ribbon blower, and rear-mounted drop spreader, that we withdraw $111,084 from the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, and that to make up for the balance, we transfer the budgetary amount of $25,389 from the police department health insurance line and $20,000 even from the police department New Hampshire retirement group 2 line for a total of $45,389 transferred from the police department budget to the public works equipment purchase budget line.
Second.
Motion a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes.
thank you. So the letters are in your to be signed folder, and if you would please sign those, I'd appreciate it. By the way, as a side note, I think motions like this are the only time I can really write and run on and let it stand on its own. So
It was pretty wordy.
I tried so many ways to put a period in there, but it just didn't work.
As a teacher, I was cringing at
Yeah, I know. There were phrases, but so regarding the budget. So in any event, the last time we talked about the budget, there were a few changes since that time. And the budget document that I handed out to you tonight not only has your voted column, but it also shows the budget committee's voted column as they've been voting on culture and recreation and outside agencies. And you can see now, the activities that they've taken, and I'm sure Selectman Ruggles, as he has updated you in the past. So those numbers are in this budget. It's also updated as of, for the expenses as of November 30th. And a few of the changes that occurred since the last iteration of this from the department heads was the realization after we set the tax rate with a 10.59% decrease caused me concern for our cash flow in the new year. So I upped the interest rate, up the short-term interest expense by $2,000 to account for what I anticipate to be higher borrowing. Because if you think about it, our first bill in 2022 will mirror the second bill of 21, which is what we're paying now. So we're going to be taking in less money at that point, but not until the end of the year in November, December, will we be seeing the full effect of the 22 rate, which skews our cash flow. So therefore, I added $2,000 to that, and hopefully that is sufficient. Also concerned about just rates in general, as they've been changing quite a bit. But I'm still told that we'll be in that 1% range, hopefully 1 to 1.25, no higher than that. Director Duval also increased his gas and diesel line by $2,000. And that is partly because of the inflationary pressures on the fuel, as I'm sure you've all seen at the pump. And if anything, I think that may be too low as it stands, because we have one more bill that's going to be coming in the beginning of January for December. And depending upon how much snow and how many routes they have to run and how much sanding they've got to do, that's when they really start to use a lot of fuel. So that might, he is okay with it, but I'm thinking that might still need to be increased. So, and he's certainly, as you know, he's aware of these things and he's keeping an eye on it. We are still in open enrollment for employees making changes to their health plans, and there have been some changes that have transpired in the departments. So that is going to be closing on the 15th or 14th. Yeah, 14th. So by your 16th meeting, we'll have all the health insurance set. And I am aware of some potential changes that are going to take place, possibly take place, that will, in some cases lower, in some cases higher, make higher this budget. And then a couple of other things here. So I'm working on the revenue budget for your December 16th meeting. There doesn't seem to be anything earth-shaking about it. It's just, the difficult items are projecting out for land use, looking at what the building permits are going to be, what the economic environment's going to be, those economic sensitive items. But most everything else, we can pretty much, we have a good handle on most of the other revenues. And hope to have that for you. The Public Works, one of the items that has come up of late, we've been utilizing a cable modem for our internet connection down at Public Works, and same thing at the senior center. Part of the ARPA fund can be used for expanding fiber access. So for the purposes of installation, which each of these locations would be about $900 of installation activity, I believe. I don't have a firm quote from Consolidated, but at the time when we were discussing adding those two, it looked like it was about $900 a piece. Fiber is on both of the roads, so, off of Route 3, I should say. For us to change out the Public Works monthly cost, we're spending about $40 a month right now on a plain old telephone system, POTS line, so a regular copper landline, if you will. With the fiber, we can connect him to the rest of the town's network. So he's an extension off of here. He does have currently one of our phones. It's connecting through the cable modem, but the cable modem is, the service down there is not as reliable as we would like. So, really the issues would be or the benefits by putting in fiber down there would be for surveillance, that the surveillance would be, rock solid from the access to those cameras, and then also for communications. But it means that it's about $60 more a month in cost. They don't do a lot of data down there. The data transfer would all be really the surveillance. The phone calls are so small in terms of the amount of bandwidth that it takes. It's hardly anything. So it's just something to keep in mind. I plan to talk to Consolidated again to see if I can't get some kind of lower service. And this would be a very low bandwidth for them, but the difference between fiber and the cable modem type is just incredible in terms of reliability. And as Ginny can attest, here at Town Hall, where we are, coming off of the PD for our data and for our phones here, it's been rock solid. The only time that we experienced any outage was when the PD had to be taken down for an electrical change, where the electricity had to be turned off at the road at 5:30 in the morning, and it was off until about 7:45 that morning. So, and that was a planned shutdown. And that won't be repeated. That was a one-time thing for something that had to be done there. So, in any event, something to think about. But otherwise, we are kind of at that stage where the budget, I would recommend that the board start voting on or having a more substantive discussion, on the departmental budgets and start voting on them. because pretty soon we'll be in January, and the Budget Committee is going to be looking to wrap up their budget probably by the end of January, so that they can schedule and hold their public hearing in the beginning of February. And we'll also be needing to, set the deadline as soon as that's done, so that we can get it in the town report and get it to the printer in time for the election. So, in any event, so we are.
When do we talk about the budget? Because I do have some concerns in here about the budget.
I would say we would, please.
Well,
Well, I don't know if you want to set time apart, but when does this have to?
I think if you complete the budget in January, I think that would, at some point in January, that would be fine. It might be coterminous with what the Budget Committee is doing, but I'd certainly love to understand, any concerns that there are, so I can address those with department heads, or get you more information, whichever is needed.
I have one personal concern on highway training. And I understand that it is for CDL licensing. However, I'm all for training. I'm 150% behind training. I want to know what other towns and cities are paying for CDL licensing. Now, there's a new law in effect that you have to go for a training for CDLs, so that you have to physically go for this training, or not like just take a test and go down to the DMV, and if you pass it, and then you take a driving test and you pass, and you've got to go for your driver training, and it's expensive. But what other towns and cities do that? I mean, this is, you're talking about, I don't know, $6,000, $4,000 a person, and then it's on our dime, their time that we're paying as well. So do we and we know from past experience, we can't say, we would like you to sign a contract if we're going to spend, $8,000 to $10,000, you getting a CDL license with like a contract for the next 3 years, that you're going to stay with us. We have no guarantee that that's going to happen.
And even if we have a contract,
We can't,
easily broken.
we can't
enforce
enforce it. We know that. So
So either we get other guides or we have unlicensed people.
Well, they have their license. One of them has a license, he's moving up to from a B to A.
One's going B to an A, and the other one is that Kevin wants to move them not fast track, but move them along so that they get the B and the A, so that they have 2 A license.
John,
I know some other people are licensed through other public works departments, and it's state mandatory. We're not paying for anything that everybody else doesn't have to pay for. Everything changed, and they do have to go through that training. That changed, and Kevin explained that. It's not like we're signing up for an extra class.
well, I'd like to see that, because it's not state mandated. In order to work for a municipality, you have to go through that training,
Everybody
to have a
does
CD.
now. The state changed it.
but you don't have to have a CDL to work for the municipality. If you want a CDL, you have to go through the training
In order to
There's-
drive certain vehicles.
in order to drive certain vehicles. So is it up to us?
Perfect time.
speak of the devil.
So is it up to us to pay for that type of schooling for CDL? We're talking about the budget, we're talking about the concern about paying for a CDL person $6,000 to $10,000. Well, you're gonna, what's the school, $6,000? The training,
One of them is 3,000, the other one is 7,000.
7,000. So, and then plus their own wages and time to go there. So if you add that on, how many months is the training?
How many months?
Well, what's the time frame to get the CDL?
I believe it's 6 months for the weekend course.
And they go on their own time?
Yes,
Okay,
so that they can continue working while they're in school.
okay. So our direct cost would be 7,000 for one and 3,000 for another,
That's correct.
but there's no guarantee that they'll stay with us once they get it. So we're shelling out $10,000 for training for someone or two people.
Is it necessary for these two people to have their CDL to function within the department?
To function,
Yeah,
they're already functioning within the department.
and we haven't paid $10,000 apiece to get them upgraded.
No,
So why do we have to do that now?
because in order to get our excavator to and from a job site, we need a Class A CDL. Or we outsource it to a hauling company, and then we're on their schedule. So my thought process was to ask the guys if they wanted to get a CDLA. They agreed to, they wanted to. So instead of hiring a Class A driver or outsourcing the moving of the machine, which is costly, I thought that we would just invest in the guys we have.
But once we get a Class A driver, once they get to Class A, are we moving up the cost of the wages?
Yes.
Once they get a Class A, so that's
Absolutely.
gonna cost us even more money on the Class A.
That's
Are
in
there-
the budget. That is in.
That's in the budget, so
That's in
we
the budget.
increased the budget to accommodate the Class A licenses.
That's correct.
So
In the fourth quarter.
in the fourth quarter, so I'm playing devil's advocate here, because, I mean, I wish somebody had paid for my CDL. But Kevin, do you know of any other municipalities that pay for their CDLs?
No,
That
but
doesn't-
I haven't asked, haven't reached out to other municipalities and asked the question.
I can do that. I'll get that information.
I know these are some of the questions that we're gonna be asked, and I know that we're gonna need to have these answers. And, you know, one of the key points is you're transporting, because we just had this incident, which will go in non-public, but the cost of transporting an excavator from here to one point, and there's nobody there to do that because you have to outsource it right now, because there is nobody in the building to do that. So it is costly to the town of Tilton, and that's one of the things that you could.
How costly is costly?
Well, you're gonna pay a truck driver, you're gonna pay for the truck, and you're gonna pay for the gas and the transportation of that truck.
And how
So what
much
is
does
it?
that
What
cost?
is it, $120 an hour or something? For, what do you pay for, like, somebody like Partridge or somebody?
Partridge hasn't returned my call.
Okay. But,
I called him twice.
okay.
The most recent contractor I called was KRM Landscaping,
Mhm.
and he was good enough to give us a hand.
Yeah,
And I just received the bill today via email. It was $150.
yeah. So it's 150.
That
I
was
said 120.
picking it up and delivering it to the next job that we had going for the excavator. So I'll have to reach out to him again to have it moved from where it is now back to the shop, which I'm assuming will cost another $150.
So 10 trips pays for a $3,000 expenditure for the CDLA license.
For the three, do we need The other question that will come up is, do we need two this year? Or can we do one this year and one the following year?
We can definitely do that. We could spread it out.
Is one just getting his CDL and then the other one is going from a B to an A?
That's correct. Peter is going from a B to an A. That would be the $3,000 investment. Jed is the one that does not have a CDL. He actually left the job that was putting him through training for the CDL to come work for us. That's why he was first in line to get his CDL from an operator.
Well, that answers my questions.
Anyone else?
Perfect timing
That was
coming in.
good timing. Coming in
Perfect
at that
timing.
point.
I do have other questions in other areas though.
All right, we'll go back to Tim.
I'm concerned with, under new, PD, under new uniforms, we're at 172%. And I know we've had an influx of different people, but that will continue through next year. We know.
Less so next year, because right now, there's only 3 open positions at the PD.
We've had like 7 this year, right?
Yes.
Does that include the cost of the new carriers?
Yes, that's in there.
It's in new uniforms.
So that would be one reason it was so high.
That doesn't include the ones that they just,
They need 3 more, right?
But yeah, it doesn't include that. Yeah,
So
just
you-
what we've expended.
My concern is that 11,400 is not enough. That's my concern. Because you have 3 people coming in, and if they're not certified, they're brand new. That's, at least $2,000 to $3,000 a person, unless they fit the size of the ones that have left, which is doubtful. Maybe a carry or a vest or something, but you're looking at, that's, times 3, you're looking at
Well,
probably 6,000.
so
And then contractually, they have replacements throughout the contract.
they do. I mean, it is a concern. It's always a concern. If you look at the contract and you look at the maximum exposure we have per person, particularly where these uniforms are purchased, Neptune, it's pretty expensive. And the $11,000 doesn't even, get close to covering what our total exposure would be if everybody bought
Right.
every maximum every year.
But if you look at the average, the 3-year average, it's 12,000.
Well, so what would be changing, I believe we're going to be able to take advantage of the VEST program again. So somehow in the mix, we didn't receive
The
grant
grant.
match for that. So hopefully that will be the case next year. So
But you can only get so many with that.
I can go back to the PD
I
and
think it's like.
take another look at it.
3 or something like that.
We can certainly take another look at it.
Those are just a couple of the ones that just absolutely stuck out at me on that.
And this is one of those things, there are a number of lines where we have to use a reasonableness factor to determine if it would be unreasonable to budget the absolute maximum, I think.
Well, you can't
Because
in
it-
uniforms because contractually, and you're right, not everybody uses what they're signing for.
And I mean, I suppose we could do that, but it would artificially inflate our budget. And, and this is a kind of a tightrope that we've walked in the past, and this isn't the only line like that. There are other ones that, cause me concern when I see invoices come through. Because, we could budget a lot more for them, but because of our practice and and the way things have worked, we've been able to do okay. And invariably, you're going to have some that are going to be overexpended, some lines are going to be underexpended, and you do okay in the end. So, but I'll go back and I'll review that with the PD and make sure that they feel comfortable that is sufficient.
Under equipment purchases.
In the
For
PD.
the PD?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is that only the Tahoe?
That is. So essentially, that would leave $1 in the line for additional purchases.
In the past, what if we purchased over a 3-year average of 4,100? What if we purchased with that in equipment purchases? What's normally been there?
It's been a whole myriad of things. Everything from the dispatch chairs
Okay.
to, it's been a whole kind of gambit. There's not any one large item that's been in that in the last few years. And I can tell you too, I would hope, and this is one of these, you take your best shot at it, but our average revenue, net revenue from the detail fund over the last 10 years has been over $20,000, almost $22,000 on, each year. So that's the average. We have had years that's been less than that. But this $15,000 that, or $16,000 that I was projecting to come from the detail fund, that would be the lowest amount by another 20% that we've ever seen. So, so it's being conservative there. So if we had a more average year or even a little bit under average, that would leave more money in the detail fund that we could apply to this, meaning that we wouldn't have to spend as much money out of the operating budget equipment purchase line to purchase that vehicle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In other words, if we had 20,000 we could use, then we wouldn't be spending the 45,000. We'd be reduced by the $5,000.
Thanks. One last, and then I'll move on. The weapons expense. Is the weapons expenses, bullets, ammunition, that is supposed to have gone up like somewhere 30-40% increase. And are we accommodating that in this budget, or are we purchasing it at the end of the year?
It's generally purchased at the end of the year. And if you recall, the chief had made a recommendation to combine some lines. And so the pistol range expense line was also added to this. So those budget lines were, I finally got to do that. So this amount that you see requested is not just the, for the bullets, but also for the pistol range. And as far as I'm concerned, they have not requested any additional money. The chief has looked at it, but I can go back and bring it up to them again. It is usually this time of year that the sergeant is ordering ammunition. I believe they had a sufficient amount to handle in the past at one point in time. So there was a real run on ammunition, and the board had approved spending more. This is a few years back, but I think that sort of, that was kind of a wave that sort of carried forward. So each year there was a little bit more, but I'll review that.
I know that there was an article not too long ago that hunters and people, just general public, can't get ammunition because it can't be found anywhere. So I don't know how that affects the PD. And it also said that ammunition's going up 30-40%. So, okay, thanks, appreciate it.
There are, there is also
don't think they have some weaponry that could probably be sold for a lot of money that is not used on a regular basis, let me put it that way. That's very valuable. And so I think if they were in a real bind, that's something that could be done too. There's, so.
Okay.
All right.
Were there any other questions on the budget or? How would you like to proceed forward? I know that you've talked to the chief and I believe Kevin on the budget, and as well as me. So
did we talk to Jeannie too about hers?
Not yet.
Did we do yours?
I feel like we did, didn't we?
well, I've been through it, but you're more than welcome to. I think you did actually.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. Yeah, I do remember you doing that.
Just ready to go with the recommendation.
Heather's done hers. Keep in mind, this has the 4% merit budgeted. But obviously, as you know, only what you award is what's paid out. So
the next incarnation of this, will that have more expenses in it for this year?
oh, absolutely. Every time
So
you
this is
get it.
really kind of through October-ish now. We haven't got a lot of November
Oh,
bills.
no, this is November 30th. There will still be some expenses coming in this first week of December for November. So, and there are some that are 30 days in arrears that we deal with. So, but by and large, most of the expense is, is consolidated through the end of the month. So, but there are some things that trickle in.
Well, I'd just be curious, like, did you plow today? So I just kind of be curious just to see what our diesel expense was for a minimal storm.
Oh,
And seeing, are we really under budget for next year? Are we good? Because we're already over budget for the year, but how over budget are we going to be? And that's one storm, and I know it was more of a nuisance storm, but you still got to run the trucks over the same route. So the mileage is, the consumption of the diesel is probably going to be.
so Kevin may have an idea of that, but our fuel bill is done on a monthly basis, and it's a month in arrears. So right now we're processing. I just got the notice that the bill is ready for November. I can go in at any time and pull the tickets for any of the vehicles over a period of time. So I could go in and try to look if Kevin and I put our heads together and figured out which vehicles and over what time period represented the storm. But otherwise, there's still another fuel invoice that'll be coming in, not only for November, but then also in beginning of January, we'll get December's.
Now, you've already presented this to the budget committee, correct?
Yeah, the one exception is they approved last night the Island Concert Series of $2,000. So that's reflected in here. So that's the only difference between this document and what they had.
And when is the final version? Is it just a draft that went to them, or is this the final that went to them? Just draft.
No, it's just considered draft. There are still a few open items that I know I, for one, have an open item that I'll be discussing with the board later. So
when do you need us to approve the budget final version to get to them in an appropriate time?
Well, so it's working a little differently than it has in prior years. They're operating, going down through this budget, looking at it, and I fully expect that they're going to be voting on portions of the budget as they go. is what seems to be the indication from them. So I don't think they're waiting on the Board of Selectmen necessarily, but I'm sure they'll be interested in what changes you make to the budget, what changes you make to the department requests, I should say.
I'd just be interested to, it'd be weird having them approve things and we haven't gone through. I mean, I understand it's their budget, but if we up something or they, you know.
Well, you're both looking at, and, you know, maybe it's a good exercise to go through, but you're both looking at the same requests from the department heads and the same rationale and methodology and backup and supporting documents and whatever else goes along with it. So it's just two different groups looking with maybe a different perspective at the budget. So to answer your question, I don't think there is necessarily a deadline, but I do think it would be, I think my personal opinion is that the sooner the board finalizes a budget, we're in better shape and it can be given to the budget committee and they know that this is what the selectmen have decided. I think that would, so if that occurs in the very beginning of January, I think that would be fine.
I was gonna say, maybe the next meeting we can whack out, take an hour and whack out some of this. But I mean, there's some things that in certain line items, I don't think you can really, you know, you can't say electricity, you know. We're gonna have no lights in town hall. We have no heat in town hall. That's one here tonight. Which means you control the thermostat.
It wasn't the other day, I can tell you.
I just think I don't like heat, so. But I'm just, you know, maybe we can schedule the next meeting, just take an hour or something and go through some of it. And at least this way, when the budget committee goes to look at it, they can see what we recommended. And
yeah, we really rarely have, you know, any kind of large item in here. I mean, probably the largest that we've had affecting this particular budget is the $45,000 in the operating budget for the Tahoe. And that's hasn't been seen in the last probably 5 years, because prior to this, our last cruiser delivered was in 18, and prior to that, we were doing everything through the detail fund exclusively. So
18 was in the budget?
in 2018.
It was in the budget?
No, it was not in the budget. No, I think you have to go back to 16, 15 or 16. I think we had a small amount.
A portion of it.
We had a very small amount. I want to say 15,000 or something. But it was some time ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where are our Tahoes, by the way?
So the update on the Tahoes is that we had been told and thought that there were 2 vehicles sitting on a lot in Massachusetts.
That they were on hand, ready to go.
On hand, ready to go. And as it turns out, they weren't. So I explained that I didn't think that we should have to, that we should be in a position to wait out the New Hampshire state bid pricing because the delivery times were not guaranteed on anything else, and that there wasn't a significant benefit in terms of timing. And in checking with Director Duval, he felt as though we weren't going to be, you know, any great exposure in terms of the fleet in that time period between what we'd be paying a premium for, now understanding that they didn't have any vehicles, and what we would be getting through the state bid pricing. But the reality is, in talking with other towns, nobody's getting any vehicles. Doesn't matter what manufacturer you pick. There are no Fords available. There's no Tahoes available. All the police packages, they're all gone. So really, we're all waiting on manufacturers.
How could a few weeks ago those cars be there waiting on us, and now they don't exist?
Well, that's what we were told. That's what the police department had reported. That's
Yeah, I remember.
that's why I brought it up to the board, because I thought it should be a board decision. And, but finding out that, that they were vapor vehicles and didn't exist, that there's no point, if there's simply a matter of 3 or 4 months delivery, to pay anything higher than the New Hampshire state bid price for one of those vehicles. It just doesn't make, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't make any economic sense to me.
We're gonna have to wait just as long to get the lower price.
Right. You know, or maybe a short term later, but either way,
So are we back on the list with McMulkin?
we are.
Okay.
Yep. We are.
It's the way it's being told one thing and then another thing is actually the truth.
It's,
Well,
we're dealing with car dealerships.
yeah. And
John?
So Kevin, the vehicles, they've all passed inspection, they're structurally sound and
Yes.
brakes and everything works on them and they're
Yes.
safe.
The only thing I did mention was maybe putting a little bit more money in their maintenance fund, just for the repair fund, whatever, however they look at, for maybe a transmission failure, because we might have with these vehicles having higher mileage, it can happen. And so that's the only request I had made, was that they put a little bit more money in, just to cover the base with that.
It's about $4,000 or
So
so.
like 4,000 or 5,000. There's a chance we won't even spend it. Just the brakes and strings, bearings, things like that. Wear and tear items for the next year, which is okay. For me as a mechanic, that's a quick turnaround. I can get them in, assess them, get them fixed, and get them out. So that, another year with this fleet is good.
You're not having part issues. It's getting inventory issues, like a new car.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues ordering parts. But I have resources throughout the country, so, I'll get on Rock Auto and order something from California and have it in 2 days. So I have resources for that. So that's really not an issue.
They're not parts of it. The parts haven't been, it's the chips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the chip issue.
If
It's
it's
not the parts.
ECMs or control modules, then we have an issue. That's why we're having to decommission some of the Crown Vics, because the ECMs are failing and we just can't get.
I actually drove by a Ford dealership like 2 weeks ago, and they actually had more cars parked for their service department than they had cars in the lot to sell.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. So, and there were emergency vehicles parked in the lot. So it was, including police cars.
so I made a note of talking to the chief about adding another $4,000 there, or the board may decide to do that, even if the request stays the same. So for that particular line, vehicle maintenance,
It's good to talk to her first.
certainly will. So in that's really what I have. If you go to the next to last on the last pages, you'll see how the budget committee voted on the outside agencies. They're all done with them. So Hall Memorial Library, Old Home Day, the Pines Community Center, and the Summer Concert Series all received the requested funding. And also Youth Assistance Program. Those that didn't were Lakes Region Mental Health. It was zeroed out. Their request of $3,000. Community Action Program was reduced from a $12,000 request to an $8,300 request. Franklin Visiting Nurses was reduced from a $12,572 request to a $6,000 request. New Beginnings was their request of $1,575 was zeroed out. New Hampshire Association of the Blind, their request of $2,000 was zeroed. I believe they didn't meet the criteria for the timing for the budget committee.
Correct.
CASA's request of $1,500 was zeroed out, and that was it. So those were the actions that the budget committee took on outside agencies.
Not happy at all. That would severely impact the seniors in our town.
But may I?
Sure.
So what we did, Pat, in terms of looking at that, is that when we broke down and took a look at the percentage that we were contributing versus the amount that we were receiving in services, we were exorbitantly high compared to the other communities, including the communities with a higher tax base. So to be financially prudent, we came down right into basically the mean or the median percentage rate that the other communities that we had were contributing, which makes a lot more financial sense in terms of the percentage of money that we are receiving.
And that may make good financial sense, but when you actually work with the product and the services that they're giving you, what they do in other towns is not what they do in the town of Tilton. And so you may receive a lot more services in the town of Tilton for our seniors than you do in other towns, and back and forth. We work directly with the Community Action Program, with Meals on Wheels, fuel assistance, electric, the senior center, the program director, they give us 20 hours of program director. They keep our senior center open. The transportation, and I can go on and on and on and on about that, but it makes great financial perspective when you look at it in paper. When you deal with it on a daily basis with us, with going to somebody's house with a meal, and you know that they're eating cat food instead of their meals, and you report that, and now you're networking with people, real people, to get them help, it's worth what you've cut out of that budget to get that person the help. And that's real time and real help. And that doesn't equate to a financial perspective. It's a lot more that goes into that. And that's what I'm trying to add into it. You can put dollars and cents to a lot of things when you're looking at caring and compassion to our seniors and disabled in our town. I don't think we can put a price tag on that.
But none of our services are being reduced in terms of financial commitment.
It will, I'm being told, as of this morning, I'm being told that this will impact us, and it will impact the senior center in programming. This is what I'm being told.
Jeannie?
Just a question about Lakes Region Planning. So that's reduced by 200. I'm just curious why.
Yeah, and Lakes Region Planning.
Oh, because they,
That's
No,
how much they
that's
spend.
an increase.
The
That's,
red request.
it's
oh, I'm
based,
sorry.
yeah, it's based on what, and
The
really,
contract says.
yeah. And, there's always the discussion of, should that be moved into the administrative budget? You could certainly do
Because it's
that if you like.
contractual.
Yeah, that, and also the animal control, I know is still being worked on. So both of those should probably be moved into a different area of the budget at some point. But anyway,
I agree with the Lakes Region Planning. It should be in the administrative part of the budget.
or land use, one of the two.
I agree with it.
Would the board like to make that change?
I'd like it to be in land use, I think, but it still has to be broken out as that's what we're paying for.
Oh, it'll be
contractual,
it'll be
yeah.
a separate line. It'll
Yeah.
just show up in that department.
Yeah, I move, we
Makes
move.
sense.
I move,
Planning.
we move. I move that we move Lakes Region Planning 840 out of outside agencies and move it into the land use department.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion?
Yes.
John?
Do we have to make these changes now? Could these be done after the budget's complete and after the town meeting? The reason being is that when we're working on the budget and you start switching the totals from one line to another line and trying to do it, it just makes it a little bit difficult and for explanations.
But wouldn't they see that in the fall, looking at it again, and the explanation comes in the fall?
Well, everybody's already submitted their numbers and everything for budget, that, you know, we're right in the middle of all of this. And
But Lakes Region
after we're done
planning
with
is
the budget,
contractual.
I'm just saying that it makes it a lot easier to understand, look at the budget if you do it after we've actually done it. I don't think there's a big rush for it. I agree that should be there. I just don't think right now we're in the middle of all these.
So I can tell you that just from a technical standpoint, when those things are moved, that will, everything will go along with it. So all the budgetary amounts will go with that line into that department, as well as all the expenditures. So the difference would be you would see the bottom line of that budget increase by the $3,800 or so. So from that standpoint, you're correct, but otherwise everything would still be,
The numbers are the same
Yeah.
at the end,
Right.
but it does make it more difficult to explain right in the middle of the budget.
Doesn't matter to me either way.
Well, there's a motion and a second.
We either do it now or in the fall, they're still gonna question it.
Well, we'll see how this goes. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
There, was that three?
Three.
Two. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2.
All right, if there's nothing else, then I'll move on to the rest of my report, which is brief, as we've already talked about some of it. So just reiterating, I'll have the revenues for you. I'll send them out to you before the meeting on the 16th. Year-end encumbrances. So right now, there are two that we are planning to have you approve. One of which is Plant New Hampshire charrette, which you're aware of, and we have the invoice that we can use to encumber into 22, so that we don't have to raise and appropriate any additional monies for that. And then the Riverfront Park Pavilion roof. I don't know if it's repair or replacement, but about a year and a half ago, the Parks Commission determined that the roof was in need of repair or replacement. And I was there when they were meeting. We went to the back. If you were to stand with your back to the river, looking up at the back of the roof, you could see where it was all delaminating is not the right term, but it was crumbling, a number of disintegrating. The shingle material was on the brick, and they therefore went and got an estimate from somebody for $12,500. They put it into the budget in the 21 budget, and nothing's been done. So the Parks Commission is aware, the chair is aware when we were working on the budget, that the plan was to encumber the monies. So I've asked them for either, whatever documentation they have on this $12,500. So if it's from a contractor, then we can go back to them. But to me, this is indicative of the fact that when you've got a roof that needs repair, a year and a half isn't a reasonable time to spend. And of course, even getting it into encumbering it doesn't mean it's going to happen probably for another, so many months into the new year. So, and I don't even know if that's an appropriate amount of money at this point. That was, some time ago. So
I feel like it was like 17 or 18,000 was a number that I heard.
Well, this is what they put in the budget, the 12.5 for last year for the roof.
Right, but when they came, it was discussed at a meeting in November, I think. And I think that they had gotten some estimates, and I think for a metal roof, it was like 50 grand. And then someone said for it was an asphalt shingle or decorative tile, whatever you want to call it. I thought I heard the number 18. And maybe,
There's
But-
numbers flying around in there, but
I don't have an invoice.
Well, we're gonna need something. I mean, I think the board needs to take some type of action so that this doesn't continue to languish or
this is a town building that, yes, we've given the autonomy to the Parks Commission, but we're sitting here as a Board of Selectmen and trying to figure out, is it a repair? Is it a full roof? What is it? Is it metal? Is it asphalt? Who's, what, where, how? And we don't have any answers, and yet we want to encumber some monies, and we may or may not encumber money. We need the answers, and this is a piece of why we shouldn't have this autonomy to the Parks Commission on public buildings, because this should be in our purview. We should be the one contracting, thousands and thousands of dollars. This should be under our domain. And then we would have the answers, and we could cover them, and we could get contracts. And in all fairness to the Parks Commission, they're a committee, and the Parks and Recreation be what they do and do well. Our buildings and maintenance should be under us, period.
And I think the last quarter, they've been focused on the parade.
Right. Well, and even getting back to the money,
We do so well.
if nothing else, we'll try to find a way to encumber at least the 12,500, so we don't have to raise and appropriate that again. And if let's say it is an $18,500 repair or whatever, that we'll have to the board would either have to put that in the budget somewhere, or the Parks Commission, one of the two, depending upon how you move forward with this.
John,
John?
Yeah, I think we should encumber it, and I think that we should rebid it out as Board of Selectmen and get it done. I can tell you right now, to strip my roof on my house, 2 layers of shingles, okay, the guy's bugging me to do it, and re-shingle it, which is much larger than that, was $8,600. Okay, so I'm questioning the amount, and the price for putting metal on mine was cheaper. It's smaller. It's higher.
Yeah.
So, and that was hauling it away, cleaning up everything. So I think that we need to encumber it right now, protect our building, like you were saying, Pat.
Right.
It's our asset.
We can't do that, though. We made a motion to give them complete autonomy. The next step to that is either make a motion blatantly and say, we're taking back the autonomy to the Parks Commission, but why not invite them in, sit down and talk with them and say, this is what we'd like to do. Let's let you do Parks and Recreation, and let's let us focus on the buildings and maintenance and see where they're at. And grounds, exactly.
That changes
And-
the scope of the
and-
Parks Commission.
Well,
And maybe that may be the next step. We can't just go ahead and rebid it on our own, because we don't have that autonomy right now. We don't have that. We do, as a board, we voted years ago to give that to the Parks Commission.
Sure, and we did. And after we did that, we also went to the whole town and had that whole building built. So we've built things in this town.
No, it was built first.
And
It was built with the park.
Yeah, it was built,
Mhm.
and then we gave it to
we
them.
did.
9
Yeah.
years ago, they
Vicky Virgin.
switched over because
Yeah.
it was my
Was it-
first year.
It was right after that.
but they,
Yeah.
I think that, it's one thing to do things with the town, assets of the town, the structures of buildings, regardless.
Right.
And I'm not saying anything bad about the parks, but we
Right.
need to go and under our purview, make sure that our assets are being taken care of and done that, and that they just don't have the time for that.
And I think that we need to work well with our
And when we
committees
gave them
within our
autonomy,
towns.
what does that specifically include?
Well, I can tell you that you gave them the ability to enter into contracts.
Yep.
Hire employees.
Yep.
And for the care, repair, and so on and so forth of the entire parks. All those parks.
Town buildings, structures.
Structures, yeah, everything.
That was the intent at the time.
And we had run across in the past, I know that when Joyce was here, Joyce was concerned about the Parks Commission signing contracts when they didn't kind of pass through our normal contract process, where we're making sure that, you know, the proper wording is there for limitation of liability,
Right.
that we were receiving certificates of insurance, and Catherine was good about making sure that those things were done when the concern was raised. But still, it is outside of what our normal business process is for those sorts of things. And obviously, liability is, you never know what can happen.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure that I always felt like the contract should have always gone through here. And then they do have an employee that Paul Rushlow, that goes 3 days a week, 3 hours a day for those 3 days. And
So, I'm concerned about our town assets, especially buildings and that. That's what my concern is, that you can look at the trail, Saki Trail, it's horrible. And it's just broken down, there's graffiti, so we have all these committees and we turn things over to them and doesn't get done, they don't meet or whatever.
I don't think that trail is not a town asset. That belongs to the WTA, doesn't it?
well, the town does hold
We hold
monies
the maintenance
for
on it.
for maintenance.
Mhm.
So,
If they don't do it,
That's
we
right.
have the power to make them, and we hold a
We build them
bit
for
of,
it?
we hold a bit of money aside.
It's a little over $10,000
$10,000,
set
yeah.
aside in a capital reserve fund.
Yeah.
For that.
But getting back to that, I mean, we need to make sure that we are grateful that we have a committee, particularly the Parks Committee. They've been longstanding members. They've done a great job, but when it comes to assets and public buildings and contractual items, I'm sitting here as a selectman and I really feel over and over and over again that should be under our purview. And I think that we need to sit down and talk with them and see where we go with that. Maybe you can arrange that, Jeannie, before the end of the week.
So December 16th.
Okay.
Please.
So in any event, I'm going to be pushing to get whatever we can so that we can at least encumber
Get
the
some answers, yeah.
$12,500
Right,
into next year. So we don't have to raise and appropriate that again.
it's gonna be a lot more than that. I can't even imagine it's 12,000.
Well, and keep in mind that roof has the eyebrow windows
Mhm.
in it that are non-functional windows, but still, so the roof shape is a little unusual in some spots. But anyway, and then the other items that we've been awaiting information on. So the land use plotter scanner, we were waiting quotes. I don't know if you saw my email earlier today. We finally got the quote. So in the land use coordinator doing more research on this and in talking to other towns, it was pretty clear that most towns didn't just have a plotter, they had a plotter scanner, so that you're able to scan a plan, or you can print a plan, or you can do both. And this particular one that she received the quote on does color, black and white. It's a Canon, very high quality. The list price is $94.70, I believe it was, and the end of year price is about $8,500, and maybe there's a little more play in that, or $8,500. I'm sorry. A 2-year extended warranty on the machine is $2,500, and I would encourage you to look at the video that was sent with it. It's a lot of money, but boy, that is an impressive piece of equipment when you watch and see what it can do. One of the things to keep in mind is that in this room with our AV equipment, part of that equipment is a document scanner. And the document scanner is it's about yay tall. It can be moved around. It has a zoom on it. So if someone were to lay out a plan over by where the podium is going to be, they could put this document scanner on there and project it up here or project it onto the television that'll be facing whichever board or committee is looking at it. So we do have the capability of showing things once we have them, and so you have the ability to scan these plans. You have the ability to print them. You can also, through the touchscreen, you can crop, you can deskew, you can pinch and zoom, and just print out a portion of something in a big wide format. So it's pretty impressive, as I said. It's pretty high end, which is evidenced by its price and capabilities. So that's something I would just encourage you to look at, so you can think about it. And I think the land use coordinator would probably be making a presentation at some point, probably at your next meeting, to give you what the justification is for it, should you decide to do it.
If we buy this, do we need to have a separate server for all the data that you collect when you scan stuff?
No, so it's not on our network. So when you scan it, you can scan it to a USB drive. I don't believe there's a network interface.
So you have this big map that you scan, and that's going to fit on a USB drive?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Then she can put it on her computer and
Oh,
put it on the
absolutely.
server.
Absolutely.
But then you're going to run out of room. And
Not likely.
No.
not likely.
Not likely.
Those are not big.
All right.
Yeah.
Those are not
That was
big.
my question. I watched the video.
You did.
I did.
It's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
John?
So I asked about the operation costs, cost of toner and all that, what it costs, because typically when you buy printers, they give you a small amount to get going.
Right.
And if it's a full color, I think you have 9 different colors. You have cyan, magenta, you get the red,
Yeah.
the black, the yellow,
Right.
and all those. And they usually run around $100 to $120 each per cartridge. So what I'd like to do is see how much that is. What did we pay last year for total print costs for large prints?
I doubt it was very much. But I'll find out on the total cost of that. And then I do know that she is attempting to get the general operating cost or toner cost.
Because we're at $12,000 already for this printer that we require anybody submitting plans to submit a certain number, and also electronically too, so you could look at it. So you
Right.
do all this on your computer
That's
without
correct.
having to print the copies. And my concern is that once we get something like that, it's actually going to cost us a lot of money for the taxpayers, because these are burdens that should be on the people that are doing the developers
Right.
and stuff like that. We're already hitting ourselves with $12,000 without a donor.
It
So
would be at least 11, I think. The
Oh, I
85 and
I
25.
25, and you said 94.70.
Well,
So-
8,500. The list price is 94.70. 8,500 is what we would be looking at.
So
So it's
11,000.
11,000, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, that's
It's-
considerable.
It's a lot of money, the size, the paper for it. And, I've been on conservation. We've looked at plans for 25, 26 years now. And black and white was very sufficient. It didn't have to be full color. Planning board, any of those that I've been on, we don't need to make everybody a copy that big. So how much and who's using it?
Well, as I said, so I think, for the land use coordinator to provide the justification would be the best thing. But that
It's great piece of machine, but
it really is impressive.
$11,000
Yeah.
for
No, I
the
know.
taxpayers to bite
Right.
is, I think, is absurd.
Yeah, she would have to answer those
Well, she'll
questions.
have to justify it when she
Yeah.
comes in.
So just to give you a quick, John, to buy cartridges, and it's about $100 a piece.
Very good.
Just
For that.
on a
for that
30-second Google search on my phone.
Yeah.
So I'm sure.
So if we can pull that stuff up, you buy in.
Yep. Yeah, and I think what she's done in the past is she's had to kind of manhandle the plans, on a copier and try to blow up what she could blow up. I think that's how most of that's been done. I do know that she has, I recall she went to another town at one point, something had to be printed.
Staples, I thought we were doing.
I'll find out, and those probably a good discussion to have with her. And I completely agree. I mean, if you think about the Planet Honda project, that was all done through GoToMeeting, and the engineer, their controls within GoToMeeting where you can blow things up, and as long as you've got a good source document. And that was one of the things for years ago that I had gone to the planning board and asked them to incorporate, because there's no reason why, if all these engineering companies have these things electronically, why aren't we getting it? So and if you go down to the basement, there's a good sized room chock full of big rolls of paper. So anyway, moving forward, so then we had already discussed the handheld radio replacements. And hopefully I know I will have a quote for you by the next meeting, and I'll also have a determination, much better determination of where we're going to end up for the end of the year. And you can see in the year-end expense budget that I was projecting that, well, I can say with certainty that as of November 30th, we're $250,000 less compared to our budget than last year's. So in other words, we're doing much better. And again, that's for a myriad of reasons, but primarily personnel related. And then I've got one other issue to discuss with you in non-public later on.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. We'll go into Selectmen reports. The winter parking ban is in effect through April 15th. How was that today?
It was okay.
Okay, good. And then just a reminder that the Christmas parade is this Saturday at 4:15 p.m. departing Union Sanborn School, traveling Elm Street to Cannon Bridge to Main Street and back to the high school. Fireworks go off at 6 p.m. with viewing from Riverfront Park. Many thanks to the Parks Commission for their hard work in putting this wonderful event together. And that was all I have.
I need to know how many selectmen are coming, because I'm buying candy.
I will be there.
You'll be there? You'll be there? Any kids? You'll be there? John? 5? Okay.
Oh, no, just, well,
Just
me
you?
plus one.
You plus 1?
Oh, I didn't know we could be plus ones or twos or, oh, I might be, I'll check. I didn't know I could be that. So I've never been.
In the past, we brought along some children to throw the candy out instead of us.
My kids are adults. Oh, we'll
Your
see.
kids are adults, so.
Okay, still enjoy parade. All right.
Yeah, that's right. At least they have to.
Where do we meet? At the high school? I mean,
At
the-
Union Sanborn.
Sorry.
Union Sanborn in the back.
All right,
Okay.
cool. Can't wait to see what the decorated truck looks like. All right,
Oh, speaking of that, can you get, I don't know if you have a player or something. We had last year, somebody brought a CD player, but it was bouncing in the bed, so it didn't work. Didn't know if you had any ideas. You're good.
I got a Bose speaker.
With Christmas songs.
So I do have to mention one thing though.
Oh, boy.
It's just the truck this year. Because the truck and trailer combination is a Class A driver. So it's just gonna be the truck.
It's the truck. We're limited to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have plus 1, a little girl.
Yeah, we'll fit them all in there. It's getting them up into the truck. But
It's all ladder.
I know.
Keeps you
Tall
warm.
ladder. We got there.
yeah, but we're trapped. If you don't give me my money, I'm not gonna let you out.
Everybody gets a safety lane.
All right. Next on the list, John Scanlon.
So, I mean, just everybody's busy with the holiday stuff. It's looking great on the decorations, and Jeannie's been heading up a lot of that, coordinating it, and they start to working on that, and that's great, seeing that spirit out there. And I've seen the amount of lights that gone out, got donated from different businesses, and the enthusiasm is great. Speaking of lights, we had some issues with Planet Honda being last Friday. Last Friday. Yeah.
Week
Yeah,
ago,
I
right?
went up, I talked to Joe, and basically what's going on is they have a defective software in the programming, and they were trying to get assistance to get that straightened out. What happened is, a lot of times they go home and they close the business down, and they don't know that the lights were not turning on and off properly. So, if you do see it, they can bring it to their attention.
It was an issue. I think it was an issue with daylight savings time because I passed that.
No,
I pass that every day at 4:30 in the morning, and it's completely dark.
Yes, it is now.
On the half, no, before this happened, every day at 4:30, since September, I've been going by that facility at 4:30 in the morning. And that, if you're looking at the dealership, the right half of the building is off.
Okay. The Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of the previous week, they were on all night. In fact, they were even
All
on
night.
during the day
They
too.
were not on all night. I pass it every single day.
Eric, last Saturday, I'd get an argument going about, I'll tell you, last Saturday, I went in there at 8 o'clock in the morning, met with them, and the lights were still stuck on in the parking lot. So that's all set, and they apologized, really great about it, and just, felt bad and want to be a good neighbor. So that's about it.
I thought that would be a enforcement issue by the land use person.
And she did go up the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Saturday.
She went up. It came to my attention, I think through maybe Pat was a little
Yeah.
bit.
Senator Guyder's office called.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, and anyway, I talked to the lady, and then Leanne went up there because there is a land use issue, so
Right.
she did take.
See, I went up there because I live on the street, and these are my neighbors, and Joe's my neighbor too, who operates a business. And as a neighborly thing, he didn't know the lights were on, and I encourage that people just, do neighborly things and say, hey, left your lights on. And he took care of it, and he's turning them off now.
And that was pitch black.
Yeah, he's trying to get it fixed, and he agreed to turn them off until.
Thanks, John.
Oh,
Oh, next, Pat Constantino.
So there was COVID up at the senior center, and the senior center closed down. We had to change our venue for our Gift of Lights run, and also our December 4th pancake, which has now been changed to a later date to be announced. December 11th and December 18th are now our Gift of Light trips. And then the last week of December, we're waiting for a driver to commit to which day during that week will be the 3rd. People are already signed up. We have full buses. They're very, very excited about going. Which brings up an issue near and dear to all of us. I would like to bring up the issue of a mandatory mask being worn. I think it's imperative. Now, we are the second highest per capita in the United States with COVID. And we shut down for almost a week and a half at the senior center. And there's just really only one way to protect ourselves, and that's mandatory masks. Particularly those that are at a high risk. So I would like the board to consider that.
Anyone? Thank you.
You're thinking?
Let's smoke.
I'm a no. I understand, and I was actually part and parcel of the senior center thing. I was wearing a mask. People who go into town buildings, I think should wear masks, but I don't think I'm the one that should tell them to do it.
Jeannie's gonna say something.
I was just gonna say, what they're doing at the businesses is they have a sign on the door that says, if you haven't been vaccinated, we ask you to wear a mask.
That kind of singles them out. But it's a
No,
good
because I
idea.
wear my mask whenever I go into a public space, and I'm vaccinated.
Just ask for honesty, and that may not always be practiced.
Mhm.
I live in my little bubble, and if I go outside my little bubble, I wear a mask. But if I'm in my, if I go to places I go all the time, I don't wear, personally mask. I haven't seen many places requiring. I've seen, as Jeannie said, I see we have it even where I work. If you're not vaccinated, please wear a mask. And that's for our employees as well. If you're not vaccinated, you're required to wear a mask.
They said that at your work, they could do that?
They've done it.
Okay.
But, I had to show my vaccination card, So, I'm Massachusetts based, I don't know. But I would be maybe put a suggestion, put in a sign up. Do we have a sign up there that says if you're not vaccinated, please wear a mask?
No, we have a sign up there that says masks are preferred or something to that effect. We'd like you to wear a mask or something like that, but it's not mandatory. But we have people, 98, 99 that are coming in. I'm just concerned.
But we also people have to make choices for themselves too. Like if you're going to be a risk somewhere, I don't know. I would be more of a frame of mind to have a sign versus making it mandatory, but that's me. Scott or John, you want to comment?
I agree with the signage.
If you are unvaccinated, please wear a mask, or you must wear a mask.
How are we going to enforce that? That means if somebody walks in and they don't have a mask, who's going to be the person to say, show me your vaccination card?
You can't.
You can't even ask about
Is this just the senior center?
Well,
Right.
that's what was my.
What's that?
Is this just the senior center?
I was going to make town
Well,
hall.
yeah, no, I'm concerned about the senior center.
So.
I'm concerned about the senior center.
Right,
This
so-
discussion is about the senior
Oh,
center.
okay.
I'm,
Okay.
right,
Okay.
the discussion's about the senior center. I'm not really,
I'll make a motion. I'm sorry, John, did you have anything else? I'll make a motion that we put a sign at the senior center that says, if you are unvaccinated, please wear a mask.
please wear a mask.
Or you must wear a mask, whatever the
Well, it's
proper.
Those are
different.
two way different.
Way
statements.
different scenarios. Let's be,
If you are unvaccinated, a mask is strongly suggested or recommended. You can't,
I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. There are signs out there right now that
It-
fall within the legal parameters, and I just say we copy one of those.
Do we have something that we could develop and just give me the wording and we'll put a sign up? Okay, we can do that. Let's just go by that. We don't need
I
a
could
motion.
agree with something like, for the sake of our seniors, please wear your mask.
I like
It
that.
means everybody. And it's still got a
I like
place.
that.
Yeah. You're not specifying any particular person.
Yeah, especially because you don't know if people got their booster in time or whatever. So if you just make a general
Don't for another mask.
Yep. respect for seniors.
So you got your direction on that, Jeannie?
Pat, what I heard Joe say, and I just want to see it because you're the executive committee. For the sake of our seniors, please wear a mask upon entering the building. Or
If unvaccinated, right? We have something similar to that thing up there now.
But you do know that people, even if they're vaccinated, can get COVID.
Yeah, they can.
They can be
Plus,
carriers.
Absolutely.
You know, and then you ask if you haven't had your booster.
Right.
Because
So maybe it's
should.
just, for the sake of our seniors, please wear a mask in our building.
I think that covers it.
I think we have something like that up there.
Oh.
Okay, all right. I got it.
All right. Anything else, Pat?
What was that?
All right. Next, Scott Ruggles.
We've heard a lot about budget, but just a quick rundown from last night's budget committee. We heard from DPW Director Duvall on his budget, and it was a good presentation. In our next meeting, we are looking to meet with, I believe we're looking at health and welfare. We will be meeting also with the PD, and I think we're doing IT as well, I believe, or whenever Tim's there, he gives us part of what he has. So, exactly.
Only what you need.
And then in our first meeting after the first of the year, the town administrator will come in and give us the administrative budget. So, and obviously we are looking to make sure that we have everything shored up and tightened up prior to the public hearing in February. And a quick thank you, because I was downtown today at one of the businesses, but I also saw members of the DPW staff tending to the lights on the tree near the water department. So thank you to those gentlemen who were out there in grubby conditions taking care of those lights. And that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Joe Jessman.
Only that we had a spaghetti dinner recently as a fundraiser for the senior center, at which we raised approximately $500 after expenses.
Well,
And thank you ever so much to all the people who volunteered and all the people who came down to get some of that spaghetti.
And Joe Jessamine for cooking it.
You know what?
Yes.
The funny thing is that I didn't cook nothing.
Ah,
I got there and Emily
wonder it tasted like.
and Iris had everything already prepped. I just swooped in to suck up the glory.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
you just
I
took
get
the
it.
credit.
I dipped pre-cooked pasta in the water and put it in the colander. That was my part. I didn't even do the dishes.
well,
First
But I was
fundraiser
grateful and remain grateful for the opportunity to be a part of the program.
with our new stove.
And which works great, by the way.
all right.
There is a thing with the new stove. The grill, the flat top griddle needs to be recalibrated. It barely gets hot enough to cook a hamburger.
Ah,
And it should be hot enough to basically incinerate a hamburger in no time. So it's just and don't want to mess with a brand new stove, but the guy should come and take a look at the gas. It's probably just one of those valves, you just change it out and it allows more gas. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Town administrators report.
So you all should have a copy of my report. I wasn't able to get it out to you before you attended the meeting tonight, so you don't have a hard copy. The first item on my weekly update is the Affinity LED lighting proposal. We discussed that at the last meeting. John had some questions. He provided me with a great list of questions, which I sent to Affinity, and they responded to all his questions. Tim and I had a conversation with Mr. Lieber today, some more detail. Tim, I don't know if you want to come up and speak.
So we went through the financial justification and determined that there was a difference in some of the rate structure that they were looking at. So we went through, our large system street lighting bills, and as it turns out, with the correct rates being used are going forward rates. So the savings isn't as large as what they had originally projected, but there's still a 4.35 year payback on this. The challenges, and maybe you've heard in the news, but and I don't know whether it was through the Public Utility Commission or, but somehow the New Hampshire Saves program is receiving less funding. So somewhere a considerable amount less, I guess, somewhere half or something like that. In any event, that could affect projects like this, and we discussed their agreement, which I don't have a copy of yet. Or you have the copy. Yeah. So we discussed the agreement and the timing, and I felt as though, and they were open to the fact that originally they wanted us to sign the agreement, and then we'd see what our rebate was through Eversource, and that we wouldn't necessarily have to proceed forward if Eversource wasn't able to provide us with a suitable rebate. And sort of feel like we should just have it the other way around, that we commit to the project, but don't sign an agreement until we have an assurance from Eversource that we're going to receive the anticipated rebate. Oh, thank you. So in any event, so our current lighting costs are roughly about $34,000 for these streetlights. The new LED annual cost, $16,137. So there's about almost an $18,000 savings on an annual basis. So did you want to talk about the network version?
So I had asked Steve, thinking that tonight we would be making a decision, and was there a contract that we needed to have to present to you tonight. There are two ways you can go. One is with a networked, it's called networked controls. This will not only give the town control and monitoring capabilities of the street lights, but also effective January 2022 will provide an even lower tariff cost for energy saved by dimming and scheduling, so that we can, and I think it's one of the questions that John had asked, can we do that? Can we be in charge, monitor that? And the other proposal would be a smart ready proposal, which uses photo cells and has no controls. And with the prior one, we talked about the network one, they actually come up in, they set it up, and then somebody, not to put more work on the DPW director, but he did say, they could come in the morning and they could see if a light was out somewhere or if salt got on a light, and so that we would have control over the whole system. Sounded really kind of neat.
Right.
It's in well with fiber, the public works. So.
Well,
I gotta imagine
it would certainly help to have a connection, a reliable connection.
Tim wanted to be in charge.
That's right.
Although-
Oh, I sure did, didn't I?
House, turning them on and off.
So but the network cost is, was it 106,000? So it's about $26,000 more
Right.
for that network cost and dimmable feature. But by doing that, we're going to save on that tariff cost down the road every month. And it's difficult, even as familiar as I am with the bills from Eversource, it's really difficult to look at all these different components of their bills and determine exactly, how this is going to shake out. But clearly there is going to be savings. We have control over the consumption, which we don't now. So there is no meter that is telling us we used X amount of electricity. The meter that Eversource uses essentially is the Farmer's Almanac to determine how much daylight there is and what they're going to charge us, or nighttime, I should say, and what they're going to charge us. And then we have the whole spectrum of the different, we've got 99 4,000 sodium lights and 50,000 sodium lights and a whole spectrum in between. So we, through this, we get basically each one of these, we're going to have a meter for our consumption for our street lighting, which we never had. So, we're going to find out, and by making changes so that, when it's been brought up in the past, I know I've been at meetings when someone suggested, well, why is that light on? We don't need to have that on all night, or we don't, why is that this or that? And so now we would have control over that. They do set it up, as Jeannie said, in a set and forget. So you can literally, when they come in and program this, it'll be based on our criteria, and then we can make adjustments to it or bring them in. Or if there's a trouble, if someone were logging in and seeing that light didn't come on, if it's something that we need to call them for, we can do so. So anyway, it gives us a lot more control, and it allows us to see and have an effect on the consumption, which we don't have.
In the software for the system, how much is that per year, the license?
So my understanding is it's web-based, and I don't believe there is any additional cost.
It's part of that.
It's the monitoring.
package.
It's the monitoring. So, but this whole network component is $26,000 more. So, so you're looking at an annual savings of, and the estimated savings of that networked component is about $1,100 per year. So there's a longer payback on that, but there's more control that you have.
But you could also get out there and find that Eversource's data is different from what the real data is, and that we have less lighting out there, and so that
Oh, absolutely.
our bill is a little bit different.
It's entirely possible.
John?
So, I hate spending money on technology and all that. However, we have two things that people complain about most in this town: lights and parking. Right? Everybody, we get calls about lights and left on somewhere else, or street lights that are out, whatever. The key thing is that once we put these LED lights in, some might be brighter than what people are used to on their residential street.
Yeah, like Maple Court.
Yeah, in that case, somebody could go, from what I understand, into the software and go dim it down.
Right, I agree. Residential areas.
Yeah, if we have,
Especially the tree streets.
downtown, if we have it all lit up with Christmas lights, we might dim the lights a little bit. If we have a function going, a Halloween function or something going on, we could brighten the downtown and light it up more, with the parade or safety times, or maybe during the rush hour commute, we could have some lights a little brighter and then dim it down, make it a little more cozy. So despite the cost and the savings, I think the creature comfort and relieving the endless possibilities of the light you put in is too bright in front of my house. I think that's a wise investment. There was one
Did that
question.
just come out of John?
Yeah,
So
you got me.
their total annual savings that they're projecting is $19,058, including that networked piece that we just talked about with the dimmable and the consumption. And so that works out to be a 4.4 year payback.
What was the $138 maintenance fee that he, in one of his questions, he said? I bet his answer, I don't have it in front of me, I could be off a little bit. From memory.
Here's the questions. So maybe you know where you saw it.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? Just while John's looking that up. If one of these lights go out, how do they get replaced?
Did you read that?
I don't remember. I'm having a mind blank, and I thought I read it, but
We will own the lights.
so does that mean that we need to get a bucket truck?
No, I believe that Eversource.
So they, from what I understand, I could probably find it in here. They're guaranteed for 1 year on maintenance. They were guaranteed for 1 year for all of the maintenance on it, replacement. Then after that, they charge us for it unless it fails. You know, and failure is a percentage of the number of LEDs that are out.
So
Yeah.
I think it was right in the very beginning. You had asked the question, what would the cost of field labor inclusive of all charges, service charges, transportation, troubleshooting? Although you will own the lights, Eversource is technically still responsible for troubleshooting them. On page 84 of the attached tariff, Eversource current maintenance rate is $189 per pole plus the cost of materials. Affinity will work with Tilton to report any outages to Eversource. We see a cumulative service request rate of less than 1% annually across the installations we have performed over the past 5 years. So they go on to say, using an inflated service rate of 3% or 6 fixtures, Tilton could set aside $1,134 or $20,000 in annual energy savings from the conversion and be well covered. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that was the number, was
Yeah.
like once a maintenance fee, is that per year per pole?
No, it's if they have to go out and repair. So it's per occurrence. And we have 213, I think it's 213 or 213 lights. So what he's saying
That
is
was
if
the fee from
Eversource, right?
So Eversource comes out and they do it, but then they come and put the light in, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The light company.
Yeah. So what he's saying is that even if their experience level is about 1%. So we could anticipate 2 lights out or maybe 3 if you round up. But he's saying even if you used a 6% factor, you'd be looking at about $1,000 a year, or a 3% factor, $1,000 a year.
I think the first year was
For
covered.
for that maintenance to pay Eversource.
I think that he said the first year was, I think, covered under warranty.
Right, that's correct.
And then after, so it's after the first year that we,
Yeah.
I would think things would fail in the first year.
But keep in mind the $20,000 that was just mentioned by the town administrator, that was the before payback. The new payback is $19,000. And that's with the network piece.
I'd like to move forward.
I make a motion that we move forward with the proposal for Affinity LED lighting proposal
Would you like to specify whether that's a network?
with the network
The networked controls.
control, right? The dimmer feature.
Because apparently Maple Court's going dark. No. So
Can we do wake-up calls?
all right.
Well, you asked them, you're the finance
How are we gonna pay for it?
director. That's what.
That's what, yeah, so in any case, we'll take a So the first step is to,
We just
approve
said
the
go
project.
forward.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
That was, we didn't actually say pay for it. We just said just go forward.
Right.
Well,
You'll come back with the details.
yeah, Tim had suggested that we might be able to pay for it with ARPA funds. I will need to look at that a little bit more to see if we can actually use ARPA funds for that.
And what about the Eversource part of it?
So what I would recommend, and I'm sure Jeannie would agree, that based on our conversation, that we wouldn't sign an agreement with them until such time that we have a commitment from Eversource for the rebate. Because the rebate factors into the payback and the whole financial portion of this. So currently the rebate is, I think it's 20,800 or very close to that. So if all of a sudden that were $10,000, I would think that the board would want to be aware of that.
Or nothing. Yeah.
Or nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's gonna be a lot of pushback.
So the sequence would be, once the board approves moving forward with this, and we proceed forward and get a commitment from Eversource, then it would be time to sign the contract. And of course, prior to that, have the plan for how we're paying for it.
All right, is there a second to the motion? I'll second it.
So does that motion cover all that stuff in the way it was worded?
Yeah, I believe so. Pat had said move forward with the network controls proposal. Oh, are you saying what Tim just said?
Yeah.
Of the sequence?
Well, basically what we're going to do is we'll go back.
Right.
So my understanding is we're going to go back to Affinity and say, we want to do the network controls proposal. Please draw that up and get the commitment from Eversource for the rebate. Once we have that, we'll sign the contract.
Yes.
And know where the money's coming from.
Right.
Yep.
Is that
That's the
mesh?
plan.
All right, any,
Oh, I don't know.
What? Is that mesh?
Yeah, well, because are the lines that interconnect in between them, they're responsible for those two separate.
That I don't know.
Which would be a mesh.
I would think so, but
Yeah, you can ask.
yeah, it's, I can tell you, it's through Verizon. And
No, it's how I was asking how they're communicating to each other or back to the base. Are they hardwired to each one, or is it a mesh network? Or, are there other fees for that wiring or maintaining the wiring?
Right.
Or
There are no other.
there are no other fees.
It's all-
Mhm.
So it's Verizon NetSense is what they
Right, yeah.
refer to.
Oh,
Right?
all right, all those in favor, any other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'll make it as quick as possible.
sure.
Just, I think John's point in terms of safety and accommodating the ability to move things, to move light up and down is great. One thing, if you physically want to see the difference between LED lights on the streets, if you drive Pillsbury Lane, and you look at the lighting, there's a street light there, and then there's the LED lighting in the Tilton School facility. And it's vastly, vastly different. So in terms of safety, et cetera, you're looking at much, much better lighting, much better breadth of lighting as well. And I think we all know that with LED, especially down at Kevin's facility too. But I think this is a good idea, especially in the areas where we might want to have a little bit more light in terms of safety in the town.
All right.
maybe perhaps we could put it down on Main Street where the crosswalk is. Can't tell you how many times we've gone forward and someone wants to cross.
It'll help.
You can't see them.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, motion passes.
Thank you.
Go by
All right.
forth and light the
Moving
world.
back to you. So it's hard to believe, but we're already starting to think about the annual report. So you all as a board might want to start thinking about who, if anyone, you want to dedicate the report to, and if letters, if appropriate, in memoriam.
I have a
Obviously.
memoriam idea.
And we don't have,
I
Okay,
don't know.
we can say it out loud because he's already gone.
Yeah, but maybe family, and if they don't get children or
Oh,
something.
want me to write it down? Give me a sticky.
Is it?
Your friend with the bow tie.
Oh, I
I don't
I don't
know. Danny.
mean, no, sticky. It was past notes.
yeah. That's,
Don't know who that is.
45, something years after me.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about
Nothing.
There's another one.
now. Oh,
is this is yours in memoriam too?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, this isn't memorial though. It's still. That one.
That was ready. No, I know.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Okay, I like this one.
And is
For
that
memoriam.
for in
Memoriam,
And is everybody? agreed to
yes.
I would agree to that.
I'm sorry, I thought he was,
that?
so
Okay, so.
we'll do that
if you could
another
write that
time.
to me so I-
Thank you, John. Thank you. Good thing I didn't say
Guy
it
shows
out loud.
up. Further shows up.
Professional, right.
All right, okay,
You remember it.
yeah.
But I'll get back to you. Oh, okay. All right, so that's in memoriam anyway.
We all agree on that one?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so relative to the dedication, you can think about that. We've got a little bit of time. I did send out the emails to all the boards, committees, and commissions and department heads and others who write reports. The chair of the select board usually writes the report for
So,
the board. So January 14th is the deadline.
Happy holidays.
And I assume you signed the Plan New Hampshire charrette new
Yes.
memorandum, okay?
Should be down there with you now.
Okay. Don't, it's probably right there. I won't go through the FYIs unless anyone has any questions for me on my FYIs.
I had a,
There were 3 handshakes for the Reddit, by the way.
should just throw it in my face. No, thank you. But she's had it once already. It's already been dedicated to her.
There you go. Never heard that.
Joe's been citizen of the year for 3 years.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's not citizen of the year, by the way, just so you know. That's all coming.
Mr. Chairman, I'm done with my report. unless-
you're done with your report?
Question about, are we all set with Christmas and employees?
Yes. I had asked the board, I had asked everybody at town hall,
Okay,
and I was going to send out an email tomorrow letting folks know that. So on Friday is a holiday,
mm-hmm,
and what the board agreed to was on Thursday would be a half day.
mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so that's in place of a, okay.
Yeah.
So we're all set with them.
and I assume that that is, includes DPW and PD and anyone who would have.
I think it's gonna be difficult with PD with
No,
scheduling, but I mean,
So I'm talking about administration.
yes, administration, correct. The other question I had was relative to something that I just totally spaced it. Think about it.
All right,
It was relative to something that a couple of weeks ago and I haven't heard anything about.
Something you asked me about? an employee?
Nope. Something that you were gonna write.
Yeah.
Oh, I wrote, there was a letter in the to be signed to the school.
I think.
Is that what you were thinking about?
What's that?
The letter to the school that was in the to be signed file. Wasn't it?
That was a couple weeks ago, wasn't it? Or is it that this week?
It should,
Oh, no, there was a letter.
right.
Yeah.
Is that what you're?
No.
Was it, did it have to do with the trail?
No.
All right.
Did it have to do
In the non-public.
I'll think about it.
with?
Yeah.
Seriously, I've
We can.
written the other things down and I forgot to write that one down.
I got a lot to read. All right.
For the sake of time.
We all
just
set?
forget it.
Yes.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to enter non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected, 1, has a right to a public meeting, and 2, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee, and RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2E, consideration or negotiation of pending claims of or litigation which has been threatened in writing or filed by or against this board or any subdivision thereof, or by or against any member thereof because of his or her membership therein, until the claim or litigation has been fully adjudicated or otherwise settled. We expect to be back in the public session at
11:30.
8:25, making up for the 25 minutes late that we are. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Constantino, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Piper, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
We are in non-public session at 7:12.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, the time being 9:11 PM. I'd like to make a motion, oh no.
I
Make
got
a
the
motion to
11
seal
right.
the minutes of the non-public minutes of December 2nd, 2021, because the reasons justifying the need for the non-public session still remain.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? None, motion passes. Is there any new business to come before this board?
I think Joe has something.
I think Joe might
I
have some
have old business.
old business.
I say this every time. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? We are adjourned at 9:12.
Say it every